welcome. My name is Emily and this is Miss Grace. She's 9 months old and currently chewing on a shoe. Don't worry, it's clean. It's never been worn. Today we are going to talk about sleep training, which is one of my favorite topics because I'm pretty sure it saved both my sanity and my marriage. I'm not a baby expert or a parenting expert by any means, but I am definitely an expert at worrying and Googling things at 3 a.m. and then trying them. And some of those things that we try end up working for us, and hopefully they will work for you too, and then save you a little bit of stressing and worrying and Googling. A bit of backstory before we jump in. When we first brought Grace home from the hospital, she was coming from the ICN. She was born a few weeks early and very small, and so she spent some time in the hospital. And when we brought her home, she slept all the time, and we thought we had hit the baby jackpot. But that was honestly just because she was really little and really sleepy. And she would still wake up to eat during the night, but she had really no trouble going back down to sleep, and naps were a total breeze. Anyways, around 4 months, she both kind of woke up to the world and hit the 4-month sleep regression at the same time, which meant two things. One, she started waking up every 15 to 20 minutes during the night and spitting her pacifier out and then screaming. And getting her down to sleep involved this really elaborate routine of taking the pacifier, holding it in her mouth, kind of dangling our arm into the bassinet until she fell asleep for sometimes 30 to 45 minutes. So the combination of both of these things meant that I wasn't sleeping much at night, and then most of my day was spent trying to get you to go down to sleep. Anyways, it was around this time that my husband also went back to work, and so I was just at my wit's end. I was exhausted and grumpy, even more so than any new mom, and it was just time for a change. So if that is where you are at right now, if you are frantically Googling, how do I make my baby sleep? I hope that this video can be kind of helpful in at least explaining the 5 steps that we took that helped Grace to go down more easily and sleep through the night. 2 disclaimers. 1, you don't have to sleep train. If what you are doing right now works for you and your family and your kiddo, awesome. That's so wonderful for you. But if you are exhausted and tired and feeling like this is not working for us anymore, I hope that this video can help you to make a plan and feel a little bit more in control, or at least know, like, this is not a thing I want to do. Also, I think it's important to remind you that it is okay to need sleep and to need rest. I think sometimes we feel a lot of mom guilt or parent guilt for even researching sleep training because we feel like, who am I to need these very basic things? But it's something that you need, and it will help you to be a better mom. I know that I was not a good mom or wife during that period of time when Grace wasn't sleeping. I was just too tired. I was not fun to be around. So it is okay to need rest. They'll also get a better night's sleep as well. So it's just overall better for everybody, in my opinion. Awesome, let's dive in. So what were the 5 steps that we took to help sleep train Grace? The first and maybe most important one is to check in with your pediatrician before you do any of this. For most babies, I think they have a 4-month doctor's checkup, and that's a great time to ask, 1, if they think they're ready to sleep train, and 2, if they're ready to go all night without eating. Those 2 things might happen at different times depending on your baby. For Grace, because she was little, she actually continued to wake up once during the night, and we still sleep trained her. You want to pass it? And I think that gets into an important point, which is the difference between sleep training and sleeping through the night. So sleep training is really your baby learning how to fall asleep by themselves. That's a skill that they're going to have to learn at some point in their life, just like tying their own shoes and wiping their own butt. So that is sleep training. And then they're sleeping through the night, which is more related to where they are at nutrition-wise, and that's something that you should really just check in with your doctor before you do one thing or another. And those two things don't have to happen at the same time. Your baby can learn to sleep by themselves before they are able to go all night without eating. But for both of those things, I would just recommend checking with your doctor, because they're the ones that are going to know your kiddo and can help you navigate that. So the second and maybe most important thing that you're going to want to do is to make a plan. And for this actually has a couple of steps within it. And one of those is to get your partner on board. So your partner is going to be your backup when one of you thinks this is not a good idea, we should just go in and get the baby. Having someone else who is there to remind you why you're doing it can be very helpful. The next part of making a plan is doing some homework and finding out what kind of sleep training sounds good for you and your family. And for us, we chose a variation of the Ferber Method, and the variation that we chose was out of a book by Natalie Wiles, which I will link below, but it was called How to Get Your Baby to Sleep, the Baby Sleep Trainer Way. And it was super helpful for us to just pick an expert and follow her plan to the letter and feel like we could kind of outsource that, but I'll link that below. But once you've done your research and you've figured out sort of what you're going to do, I would highly recommend writing out a few things and just kind of figuring out your strategy. And then also picking a time. So at least for us, I was really worried that sleep training was going to go really horribly. And so we chose to do a Friday so that we knew that we had Saturday and Sunday to not really have anything else to do and to take a nap. It didn't end up being bad at all, and we didn't really need it, but I think, yeah, it didn't. I think it was really helpful to just know that we could if we wanted to. Okay, the fourth step is going to be taking a deep breath and starting. I know how scary and how intimidating this step can be, and how many times you can put this off. For me, we kept waiting for an ideal time to start, and there really isn't one. And honestly, the longer you wait, the more afraid of it you're going to be. So just take a deep breath and go. Follow the plan that you wrote out. Our first night was pretty scary for me, but I was also really shocked at how simple it was, because we really just followed Grace's normal bedtime routine. We gave her a bottle, put her in her PJs, rocked her, set her down, and then we left. And we went to the other end of the apartment. We were living in San Francisco at the time and had a really small space. But we went to the other end of the apartment. We set a timer for 5 minutes was the time interval that we were following for that first set. And we waited 5 minutes, and then once the 5 minutes was up, we went back into her room. She cried a little bit. To my mom ears, it sounded way worse than usual, but I think that was just me being sensitive. But at 5 minutes, we just went in and we put our hand on her chest and said, "I love you, you're okay, you can do this," and then we left. And the next interval was 10 minutes, and then I think it went to 15 minutes. You repeated the 15 minutes. Totally depends on what method you choose to do and how long your time intervals are, but that's basically the Ferber method in a nutshell, is timed intervals that you go in and check on them. For that first night, I think Grace cried for about 50 minutes. And then the next night it was 17 minutes, and the third night it was 7 minutes. And now I would say it takes her about 5 to 10 minutes to go down for a nap or at night. And the last step that you're going to want to do is just to be consistent. I think this is where a lot of people run into trouble, because life happens And trying to arrange your life around getting your baby to sleep can be tricky. Luckily or unluckily for us, Grace is born during COVID, and we just did not have a lot of things going on. So we could kind of center a lot of our life around her sleep schedule, and that probably helped us. But the few times that we did travel, she definitely had a harder time going down to sleep. And every time that we kind of broke our schedule and went in and rocked her to sleep or fed her to sleep, I always regretted it because it would just throw us off for the next few days. So if your baby is going through another sleep regression or teething or you're traveling, go in and handle the pain. If they're teething, maybe give them some Tylenol, but they're gonna be okay, and it will probably be a better situation for everyone involved if you do stay consistent and stick to the schedule. A couple of tips that may be helpful that I wish I had known when we first started. One, if you really need it, see if you can have someone else to help sleep train, especially on that first night. I have a really good friend who went through the plan with her husband, and he did the first night and she went to a hotel room, and I think that is a fantastic idea. And then when I was in college, I actually had a couple who hired me for 1 week to come and sit outside the nursery from 7 to 9 p.m. And I had the timer and went in and checked on the baby, and they went on a walk. So a lot of times those things are just much more helpful to have someone else who's not you be in charge, and your baby will be fine, but that might help you. Another tip, if you are concerned about the emotional costs or potential damage of sleep training, I would highly recommend reading some of Emily Oster's book. Her book is called Crib Sheets, and Emily is an economist at Brown, and she writes a lot about research and data around parenting. And she did a lot of looking into sleep training, probably like every other tired mom, and she pointed to some studies where they did long-term look at children who were sleep trained versus not, and those studies seemed to show that there was no long-term damage emotionally or psychologically for the child, which made me feel better, and I hope that it makes you feel better, but I'll link that below as well. Woo! Okay, that's it. I really hope that was helpful. I tried to condense it down into a little bit more of a plan, because I know when you're tired, this kind of stuff can seem really overwhelming, or at least it was for me. But overall, my experience was that sleep training was emotionally really tough, because listening to a baby cry and not going in to comfort them is just hard. But the process itself was pretty simple, and I'm so glad that we did it, because she's an awesome sleeper right now, and I feel like I'm able to be such a better mom because I'm getting rest. So I hope that was helpful. Good luck with your sleep training. You can do it. Your baby can do it. And I think that's it. Say good luck.